fill your book up so that when you get, older towards the end, you can look back and think on, just all the different chapters and different things you've done. But also like, because I'm sure you get this too. Like people will say, "Why do you do this?"
Hmm.
And my response is, "Why not?"
Bingo.
Like why? And it is hard to wrap your head around. I'm not saying this is normal by any means, but like I don't know. I just look at these things and I'm like, why wouldn't I try? Because yeah, and I'm gonna knock on a lot of wood here. I haven't DNF'd yet, anything, but like, yeah, so what? You might fail for sure. We all do. We're always gonna fail something. But what if, like I always think, what if I succeed?
Running is a strange thing. Some people find it on the sidewalk at sunrise. Some find it deep in the mountains, chasing daylight. And some of us find it when life feels heavy, and running is the only thing that makes sense. For some, it starts with a 5K. For others, it's a marathon. And for a few, it's 100 miles that changes everything. But somewhere between the first step and the finish line, something happens. Running stops being about pace, or distance, or medals. It becomes about purpose. I'm your host, Ryan Head, and this is Reimagine Running, the podcast dedicated to talking about why we run. Each episode, we'll sit down with runners from every background, trail runners, road runners, beginners, veterans, and talk about their journey. Not just where they've run, but why they run. Because for many of us, running didn't just change our fitness, it helped us find clarity, healing, discipline, hope, and sometimes even ourselves. Whether your why was born on a short loop around the block or somewhere deep inside a long, lonely mile, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Reimagine Running. All right, everybody, welcome back to Reimagine Running, the podcast dedicated to why we run. I am excited. I have someone with me today who I have gotten to know over social media. Most importantly, I'm really excited about our guest today because me and him both raced the Wasatch 100 in 2024 together. And we have stories that are going to be just a blast to talk about because it was a sufferfest that year. And we'll get into it. Stay tuned. You're going to love this. It's going to be amazing to hear. It's really been fun to follow his journey and the things that he's been doing because he has just been crushing it with running. And for all those who've been teasing me saying, when are you going to get someone on that's outside of the state of Utah? Here we go. We got our first guest from outside of the state of Utah. So there you go, guys. So anyways, without further ado, we got Matt Simeone here with us today, and I am excited to have him here. So let me just give you a little intro to who he is. Matt is a lover of trail ultras who's unfortunately lives at sea level, 3+ hours away from the mountains. He's done 12 ultras to date. He's currently 39 years old, so all coming up there on 40. Just like myself, and his passion is running and music. I'm excited because we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot of the same music interests, so that's going to be amazing. Currently in the Chesapeake, Virginia area. He grew up in Virginia Beach, and thankfully his parents and sister moved to Park City 12 years ago, and that's where he fell in love with the mountains. For those not familiar with where Park City is, that is here in Utah. It is a very mountainous, beautiful part of the state, so it's awesome. He's been able to be up there. So he's been running since about 2008. He refocused in 2018, and it has been his thing ever since. He had his best year of running last year with some pretty good results. I'm excited to chat with him about that and find out where he's going there. And then, like I've already mentioned, he did finish the Wasatch 100 in 2024 with me, and that was pure chaos. As I've mentioned on previous episodes, it was a screaming hot year for the race. So, anyways, Matt, welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, it is a pleasure to have you on, and I'm super excited. I appreciate you wanting to be a podcast. It's always fun when I have people that are listening who are wanting to be a part of it, and especially when they're just amazing runners like you. So super, super cool. Well, before we jump into it, before we dive into everything, just want to take care of one housekeeping item. I do want to throw a big shout out to our premier sponsor, Fleet Feet. Fleet Feet is amazing, located here in both Ogden and Layton, Utah. If you have any gear needs, you have any shoe needs, you have any nutrition needs, go see these guys over there. They'll get you taken care of. They'll get you back on the roads or trails as quickly as possible. So make sure you go see Fleet Feet over in Ogden, or Layton. All right, Matt. Well, like I've been doing, and maybe you've already heard this on a couple of the episodes, I've been kind of throwing a fun curveball at people with questions before we jump into anything running related. Dude, gotta ask you, it's always a fun one. Tell me something about you that's not running related. It can be anything out there. I don't care what it is. Something you're maybe passionate about as well. I know you already kind of hinted at that with your intro that you sent me, but what's something else that you're passionate about that you love a lot that that you're really into?
Yeah, so I mean well, music for sure, but pretty specific to I would say like the late 90s into early 2000s pop punk, punk rock, and then later on it got into like the metalcore stuff, Under Oath, A Day to Remember, stuff like that. But it's actually what kind of drew me to you. I think Jacob shared one of your posts right after Wasatch, and I saw, you were there and I was there, and you had a Blink 182 song as what you all dance with me is like your
Yep.
go-to.
Yep.
Definitely noticed that. And I was like, sweet, running pop punk. I was like, I'm going to follow this guy. That's how I found you. But yeah, definitely music, as I kind of alluded to with you. I definitely love snowboarding
Oh, that's
big
awesome.
time. Growing up here in Virginia Beach, we were, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, we were all the kind of, I guess they call it like the counterculture, skateboarding, surfing. And then once we got older and could figure out how to get to the mountains, we picked up snowboarding. And like I said, thankfully, my parents just kind of on a whim, they both retired and they moved out to, it's actually just east of Park City, but Wasatch area. So yeah, I mean, mountains, snowboarding, music, those are kind of things that get me going.
That's awesome. What is your favorite resort here in Utah? I mean, it's probably somewhere in Park City, probably, but yeah, what's your favorite resort? Where do you like to go?
All right, number one is Brighton for
Nice.
a lot of reasons. It's also on the Wasatch Trail.
I was gonna say,
And
yep, yep.
it's
That's
where
good.
a lot of people go to die too.
Mm-hmm.
But and number two, well, see, I mean, I don't know how you pick. They're all awesome. I snowboard, so Deer Valley and Alta are out of it, but Powder Mountain's amazing. That's up by you. And Snowbird is just gnarly. Like, I mean, Snowbird's crazy. But Brighton is definitely, in fact, Brighton, me and my dad, we kind of made a pact with each other when they lived out there, and that was we never brought anyone who came to visit to Brighton. It
Mm-hmm.
was like our little special place. So we kept Brighton to ourselves, but yeah, Powder Mountain would probably be number two.
That's awesome, dude. I love that. That's so funny that you'd say that about Brighton because it is beautiful and I
Well, you only get to
totally
see it at night
yeah.
on the
Oh yeah, like, and unless you're like elite level, which is, I don't think either of us, but
no.
unless you're getting there in, 12 hours or 15, 15 hours, we're not seeing it. And so, I'm 100% with you. I'm always like, I'm always climbing up Catherine's Pass each year, and I'm just like, man, it would be nice to see this in the day, but it is what it is. So that's super cool. Um, you're fun. It's funny you say about Powder Mountain because everybody says that, right? Like everyone's like, dude, Powder Mountain is one of the best in not
Yes.
only just the country, not just in the state, but in the country. I've heard a lot of people say that they're like, and I can't say I'm that big into it, just to be completely honest, which is sad because I live in the state and I don't even participate in it. It's mostly, I did do it when I was a teenager, but I got out of it just because when I was a junior and senior in high school, I hurt my right knee, as I've said a few times, and
Hmm.
I've always been nervous about just that kind of twisting again one more time. And I'm sure my knee is strong enough now. I mean, with all the stuff I do, whether with running or, just gym stuff. And I think I'd be okay, but I'm just like, it's just not worth chancing it. So I've never gotten back into it. It was fun when I was a teenager, but I'm just like, eh. So that's awesome. And dude, yeah, I mean, obviously Brighton has just a special spot in all of our hearts.
Well,
So that,
that's what drew me to the race, honestly, was as I got into it and I started learning about ultras. I didn't even know what 100 milers were. And then I somehow stumbled on Wasatch and I looked up the course and I was like, oh my gosh, it goes through Brighton. Like that's a crewable main aid station. And that's
Mhm.
when I was like, okay, I have to do this and set
I
my
love it.
sights on that. So yeah, yeah.
Dude, I love it. How do you, oh, man, I mean, we're still talking, we'll get back to talking about running, and technically this is still a running question I'm about to throw at him, but how do you feel about the lodge now? I mean, I know you've done Wasatch once, and I'm sure you'll do it again sometime in the future,
Mm,
but
it was
like,
hard.
sorry, you're like, I don't know. Hey, Brad, let's pump the brakes for a minute here, but how do you feel about the lodge now? Do you like, does it freak you out at all? Or are you like, I don't care. I mean, for the race, it was what it was. Outside of the
Hmm.
race, like it's a lodge, and that's where I go. Because I don't know, like you said, like I am so afraid to go into the lodge on the race. I've never been in it. I've done the race. I've done Wasatch now
Oh,
three
really?
times. I've never been in the lodge.
I got very cozy in the lodge.
Love it, dude. I love it. That's what everyone told me. Like everyone warned me. They're like, do not go in the lodge because if you
Well,
do, your race could come to an end. But yeah, go for
so
it.
so I read something about that too before the race,
Hmm.
and everyone said that. Everyone was like, if you're even feeling this much, like you don't want to do this anymore, if you go in there and you get warm and they're cooking food on griddles and stuff, they were like, you most people don't leave. So, and I guess yeah, I'll tie this into the race a little bit. What if I remember right, like there's like a 4 hour stretch leading up to Brighton where at least I didn't have cell phone service. So my parents lived close enough that when I left Lambs Canyon,
Hmm.
they went home, and I think we were projecting me to be at Brighton around 1 a.m. ish. And I was just shrugging along that whole section there, and I looked at my phone at one point, and I was like, I don't have service, and I didn't really know when I would get there, and I'd never been on the course before. Well, when I finally got to like that little radar tower right before you go down Guardsman's and kind of loop
Hmm.
around, I got service again, and I texted my parents. I had like 10 texts from them, and they were like, "Hey, we're getting ready, we're getting dressed, we're headed to Brighton." And I don't know why I did this, but I just said, "Don't come," because I had a feeling once I got there and they were there and I had a ride,
Hmm.
I might have called because I almost called it quits at Lambs. So I'm 30 miles further into the race, feeling 30 miles worse, and I was just like, if I see them again and see their car, I'm going home. So I said, don't even come. I've got a drop bag. I'm alive. And
Hmm.
thankfully they listened, didn't come. I went into the lodge for maybe 15 minutes. I had the sweetest old man. Like I swear he
Hmm.
was like 90 years old. Obviously I was alone. He got my drop bag. He just sat next to me and started telling me stories about how he worked here when he was a kid,
Hmm.
and just we didn't talk about running at all, and I think that like kind of just took my brain off of the pain and suffering
Yeah.
and everything. And yeah, he was just this little old angel that sat there and kind of calmed me down. And I think I was in there for maybe 15 minutes, and I kept remember like telling myself, get out, get out, get out.
Hmm.
And so I left, but I went back to Brighton the next fall,
Hmm.
and I remember, so I told my parents I went out there to help them drive home or drive both cars back to the East Coast. And I was like, I want to go back to Brighton one more time. And I remember getting in the parking lot and I just started bawling because,
Hmm.
number one, it's like my favorite ski resort. Number
Hmm.
two, all the memories flooded back from the race.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, Brighton's got especially after the race, is a huge, yeah, it's like my place.
Yeah, dude, I'm not gonna lie, man. So I think you know what Ragnar is.
Hmm.
Um, and most people do. Ragnar is kind of like it's a relay race. There's multiple versions of it throughout the United States. I'm sure maybe in other countries too. But they in 2024, so after I'd done Wasatch for my first time in 2023, one of the finish line was at Brighton.
Mm,
And I remember like we ran, I was the last runner. We basically go all up to Guardsman's and or the backside, and then you're coming down and you go into Brighton. And I was the same way, man. Like I got in there and I remember like I saw like the path up to, Catherine's Pass and everything in Point Supreme. Dude, I just started like tearing up and bawling. And my brother's like, "Are you okay? Like, what's the matter?" And I'm like, dude, you don't get it. Like, this is like
yeah.
special. This whole section is like if you've made it to mile 70, 69, 70, whatever of Wasatch, you've earned it so far. Like it's not
Hmm.
been easy. You've been through cold, you've been through hot, and now you're here. Unless you're an elite, then maybe you're already done. But like, we're all of us regular guys, we're just like we've been through it and we still have 30 more miles to go, 30, 31 more miles, and you're just like, dude, and it's just like it's like it helps, it reminds you like you worked your butt off to because the thing, I was actually joking with someone else just recently, a guy that I saw on the trail. We were talking about Wasatch, and I told him, I was like, dude, like just getting to Brighton is like that's just the first step of like that's a race. Like it's been a race all by itself to Brighton. After Brighton, that last 50Ks is almost a race all by itself. And it's like it sucks. Like it
It
and it's like
sucks, dude.
it does, man.
The
Like
last
it's
30
so hard.
miles
Yeah.
is the worst. I mean, I was just in. I'm glad you said that because I felt the same way. I think I told Jake that on his podcast. I was like, you go, well, you got to climb Catherine's, which
Hmm.
sucks. And then the backside of Catherine's is loose, rocky. It's at
Yep.
nighttime, so you can't see anything. And then, no, I remember like I legitimately hated the last 20 miles of Wasatch. Like I remember, so I don't remember. I think it's like mile 90-ish. You know where that one like called out aid station is,
Yeah.
like a
Top of the
water
wall.
station?
Yep. Top
Yes.
of the wall 92. Yep.
And then that climb right behind it.
Yes, I do.
I stood on the bottom of that thing and I was with another dude. I don't even know his name, but we both just looked at each other,
Mhm.
kind of put our heads down. And I think like we didn't plan this, but I think we both just started like screaming expletives at the top of our lungs because, if you look at the trail map, which
Mhm.
obviously is 100 miles compressed into this big, it's like
Yeah.
this looks downhill. It
Yep.
looks like it's all downhill. And then you got that in front of you.
Yep.
And I was so mad. And then, of
Yeah.
course, around the lake, like you just go in and out. You can see Soldier Hollow, and you can't. And you can see it, and you can't. And no,
It never ends, dude. It
it
never
doesn't.
ends.
It's
Yeah,
5 miles of endless.
yep. Decker Canyon aid station there at 95, whatever. And it's
Hmm.
like 5 miles to the finish. And you're just like, it will never end. And my crew this year, because I was hurting, or last year in 2025, I was hurting on time. So we were trying to like get me there. And my crew just kept being like, come on, Ryan, we need you to just go a little bit more. And I'm like, guys, I'm giving you all I have. And dude, I was in so much pain. It got stung, dude. We'll tell you that story
Yeah.
here in a second.
Well,
The
I was listening
bees.
to your episode. The
Yeah.
bees were crazy.
Yeah, dude, you missed it. Like, at least you didn't get the bees because we've been in a drought. We're in a drought again this year, but it was just so hot last year that the bees were really bad. And there was multiple places along Wasatch last year where just tons of wasps, tons of hornets, like, and they were the ground ones. So they just come up. If you put your foot in the wrong place, dude, they just start attacking.
It's like
Yeah,
the
I
Hunger
got
Games in a
Dude,
race.
yeah, seriously. That's what Jacob Bateman said. He's like, dude, it's like a Hunger Games. I'm like, yeah, it freaking was, dude. It sucked, man. And they hurt like no other when they
Mhm.
got you. Anyways, all right, we'll jump into more about Wasatch here in a second.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about, we're supposed to be talking about other things outside of running, but this was
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Don't even worry. I love how this is flowing so far. So, dude, this is amazing. Music, dude. So, dude, I want to talk with you so bad about this because he is someone we have, as you can see. I don't know if you guys, well, once this episode is published and I publish it in high resolution, you'll be able to see his shirt. He has an AFI shirt on. He's
Oh, yeah.
got Enema of the States album behind him. You can see all kinds of
AFI,
fun. Yep.
Blink. I got Under Oath, Rise Against, Strung Out,
Look at
Amberlin,
that.
the Ataris, Alkaline. Well,
Heck yeah.
Alkaline's over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
That,
this is my treadmill's right here. All my shoes are along the wall. This is like my little cove in the garage. This is my area.
Dude, that is freaking cool. So one thing we promised we talk about on this, we were
Yeah.
talking about before we started this episode, but we're going to talk about it now. It'll be perfect. Is what is Blink's greatest album? So if you don't care to hear about Blink 182 or music right now, skip ahead. It's going to take a minute on this. So
A
that's
debate.
good. Yeah, we're going to have a good debate. You think Enema of the State? I think it's a great album. I'm not going to say it's not a great album. I
I
think
don't
it's
think
it's really good.
I don't think it's enema.
Well,
Actually, it's funny. It's funny. Tom DeLon or not Tom, Mark
yeah.
Hoppus posted a video. I don't know if it's recent or not, but I saw it the other day and I sent it to
Hmm.
my buddy. But he ranked the Blink 182 albums. And
Okay.
surprisingly, he had Enema at 3. He had Dude Ranch at like 7,
Wow.
and the first comment under the video was hilarious. It was like this guy knows nothing about Blink 182.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Pretty sure he does. But yeah, I think he ranks Untitled number
Mm.
1, which isn't
Yep.
that what you said?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. I disagree respectfully. It's
That's all right. That's all
Enema.
right. And it was a great album. I would say it's probably number 2, maybe number 3. It's really hard for me. I really like Take Off Your Pants and Jacket as well,
Hmm.
but I really think I like Enema more because I think it was more, in my opinion, like it was pre them becoming very, very popular. Enema of the
Well,
State.
it like
And
put TRL on the map.
yes, they did. Exactly.
Mm.
And it was more raw. That's what I loved about Enema of the State. It was more raw. I feel like Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I'm not going to say it was I'm not going to say they sold out, but it felt more sold out of an album, just a little bit. Like you're saying,
Look,
just a little bit. And that's why I personally like self-titled so much, is because I felt like they, at that time, right, they'd been kind of bickering a little bit. Tom had gone and done his own little side project with Boxcar Racer, and well, him and Travis went and did that. And then, that kind of got, I think, started some of the discord between them. So then when they dropped self-titled, it's just a change in a completely different direction of like this pop punk. Also, now you have self-titled, and it's like, very engineered album, like
yeah.
very deep, like very hard, like, deep lyrics, deep sound. And I was like, what in the world? And anyways, that's why it's like my favorite, because I'm like, dude, it is like a, in my mind, a masterpiece of an album. And I know you like it. It's not like you don't like it, but
Yeah, I think, and we'll get real nerdy here for a second. I think
yeah.
context is important too, like where we were. I mean, we're the exact same age, but like, Enema came out in '99, which,
Yep.
so I was still in middle school. We were in middle school. And I just think being like more of a core punk rock kid, it
Hmm.
was Dude Ranch, which I thought that would be my number two probably. But
Solid, yeah.
yeah, and then Enema came out and it was still punk enough. Takeoff started getting like poppy and they were all over MTV and all that stuff by then. But yeah, so I think Enema just for me is also probably like my second CD.
Oh,
We're
nice, yeah.
dating ourselves now that
Yeah.
I ever owned. And I remember, I think, oh, it's not on the poster, but it had the parental advisory remember
Mhm.
that little thing on it?
Mhm.
And I think I had to like convince my parents to buy it for me. Yeah, surprisingly though, I think I would rank this last one more time as three for me.
Wow.
I think
Dude,
that's like
I
a
love it.
masterpiece.
I 100% agree with you. 100% agree. I think it's amazing.
And I
It's
saw
so
them,
good.
yeah, I saw them, I don't know, October maybe. I think it was in the fall. I think
Mhm.
I sent you videos actually from the concert because
Mhm.
we were talking about it, but they're so good still. I saw them with
Dude, they're
Alkaline Trio, which you want to talk about a letdown. Matt Skiba never came out and played with them.
Are you kidding me?
Dude, I was waiting the whole time.
Oh
I was like, he
my
used to be
gosh.
in the band.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
But anyway, so Blink, Enema's the best.
Yeah.
All the rest, there's three or four that I think tie. Dude
Mhm.
Ranch, Takeoff, Untitled, One More Time. The others all suck, if I'm being honest. And their old stuff, it was punk, but it
Mhm.
just sounded so bad.
Mm.
It was so
Yeah.
unpolished, and you could tell they recorded it in a garage or something. Some people love that stuff. They're like,
Yeah.
that's Blink 182. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Dude, yeah,
yeah.
you're so right. It's funny that some of that old punk stuff, like their old really, really punk stuff, like it's good. Like I can listen to it, but like you said, I'm it's like very raw, very distorted. I'm just like, it's okay. I'm not gonna be like, it's my great, like my favorites, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is growing up then, if you think about it, we grew up when all those funny teen movies were coming out, American
Yeah.
Pie,
Yep.
some of those, and a lot of Enema songs. I think Mutt or Wendy Claire was
Yep.
on the American Pie soundtrack. So like
It
that
was.
sound was part of the movies, even the just the media, whatever we called it back then. But so
Hmm.
like there was just that was our identity back then. And I think
Oh,
that's why like those movies, that type of pop punky stuff just kind of resonated and it's always been there for me.
dude, that's awesome. Well, one last thing about Blink, and then we'll wrap it up. Funny enough, Enema of the State, the exact poster you have behind you. My mom, I still remember bringing the album to my mom and asking her to buy it for me. At that point, I only had like two albums, and my mom was like, nope. She refused. And I was like, please, mom, like, I want this album so bad. You have no idea. Like, it has so many great songs. Anyways, thank heavens for my older brother, Justin. He actually went and bought it for me like the next day. So it was awesome. I was
Yeah,
like, oh, thank you.
when we were like 12 years old, that is a tough album cover to get your mom to buy.
Dude, if I had a boy, if I had a boy, I have two girls, but if I had a boy and they were like, hey, dad, I really want this, I'd be like,
It
dude,
is a
you got to sell me why this, or I'm taking the crown, I'm taking the cover. Yeah.
it's a poster to have in your garage, but I just was like, I don't care. This is like iconic to me, like
Heck yeah, dude.
because I have two little kids too, and I'm just like, maybe it's high enough they don't see.
I love it, dude. I love it. Well, cool. Well,
Anyway,
yeah, no, I love it, dude. Well, let's move forward. And I'd love to throw the same question I throw to everybody, man. When did running, first enter your life?
yeah, the story. that I kind of tell to tell my story is I was always athletic as a kid, but I was always very overweight, which sucked. It was like I could always do the sports,
Mhm.
but my weight always held me back. So this isn't when my running journey started, but when my fitness journey started was actually in high school, junior year. My best friend at the time, he was a wrestler,
Mhm.
and he bet me $50 that I couldn't make it through the first week of wrestling practice. And I was a broke kid. I think I just got my driver's license, so I needed gas money. I was like, I can grind through this for $50 and then I can just quit. So anyway, I did it. I actually fell in love with wrestling. I wrestled the last 2 years of high school. I think I won two out of like 40 matches, but it is what it is. But
Yeah, but you had fun. You were having fun, yeah.
yeah, but his bet and then me going through 2 years of wrestling, which is a ridiculously hard sport. The coaches are putting ice bags on the thermostats to run the heaters the whole time, so you're just dying. That kind of gave me a glimpse of, okay, maybe I'm a little bit more capable than I thought I was. But then I went to college. College got the best of me for sure. Ended up coming back home after a year and a half from where I was going. And I mean, I was a big dude at that point. Like, I'm only 5'9". I think I was up to 280, maybe a little bit more. You know, yeah. My parents, being concerned parents, were like, "Hey, we need to, probably get your weight under control here." So my dad was like, "Come to the gym with me. I'll pay for your gym membership." I was living with them at the time, he was like, "Come on, and just do what I do, and see if we can't get something to stick." He got on the treadmill. He set it at a 10-minute mile, and he's like, "I do three miles, 30-minute run, and then go do some other stuff." So I got on the treadmill next to him, and I actually made it through the whole 30 minutes at a 10-minute pace, having not worked out in at this point 3 years probably. So I remember like I got through that and was like, that should have been way harder than it was. Like maybe there's something to this or whatever. So then, years went by and I was just doing that, working out with them, doing like boot camps with, adults my parents' ages that
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
getting.
yeah.
But it stuck. And then it was, so that was 2008. I stuck with it, lost a bunch of weight, and then, kind of went through all sorts of different fitness things, had a little CrossFit phase, built my garage out into a little CrossFit gym. But I realized I don't really eat to be like a lifter, like to put
Mhm.
on muscle. So I was like, I'm just killing myself and I'm not getting anything out of it. So then I went back to running, and this was in around 2018. And the thing that motivated me or kind of kickstarted my where I'm at now was I got a copy of Runner's World magazine, or I think no, I saw it on Facebook. Saw a Facebook post from Runner's World. It was in January, and it was like, join us this year and make a pledge to run 500, 1,000, or 2,000 miles in a year. And it was already mid-January, so I was like, okay, and I was like, 2,000 is a lot. And the way my brain is wired, as I've learned, is like I'm gonna go for the most in every situation. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for 2,000 miles. Did
Heck
the
yeah.
math, figured out what that was gonna be. Yeah, heck yeah, I was right. And I finished the year with uh, 3,600 something miles. It was a lot. It was too much, probably. Anyway, that kind of hooked me. And
Mhm.
then I signed up for my first ultra so that was actually 2019. So December of 2019, I signed up for my first 50K, and then I was just hooked. I mean, which I thought this was awesome. I think that race I finished in like four, I don't know, 440 maybe,
Mhm.
which is a pretty good 50K
TK, that's
time as
amazing.
I've
Yeah.
learned. Yeah.
That's a
And
fast time.
yeah, that just kind of kicked it off. And, I certainly don't run that much per year. I'm still probably over 2,000 miles. Yeah, that's what that doing that 50K, running most of it nonstop that year. I was just like, oh, I can do this. Funny enough, I think I was like my first marathon was last year. So I skipped all the distances. I went straight to, which is that's just me, I think. But yeah, so and then, I've done other distances, done 24-hour races. I've hit 100 miles twice, one in that format and then obviously Wasatch. But yeah, I mean that's how I got to where I'm at today.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, you said a lot of really cool things that I want to unpack a little bit. So this is awesome. First off, Congratulations on the weight loss, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I've alluded to it as well. I've talked about it. I'm 5 on a good day, mostly 10 at 5'10",
With
5'10 and a
Hoka's
half.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, with Hoka's on, exactly. And I was up to 265, so I
Mhm.
mean, I was not as heavy as you, but I was pretty close, and so I know how it feels when you're that, when you're a little bit bigger. Again, nothing against people that they're bigger or whatever. If they're comfortable and they enjoy that, that's awesome and good on you. I just knew that I needed to probably change a couple of things because I was having some health issues. And,
Mhm.
when you're in your 20s and you're starting to have some pretty major health issues, it's concerning. You're like, I don't think I should be like this. And so, like you, I lost a ton of it. And it's cool because you're very similar to me. I remember Melody Bateman didn't give me grief, but she was calling me out on it when I was on their podcast for the very first time. You learn to love on a tread, like you learn to love running on a treadmill. Like,
Mhm.
that's super cool. Like, I don't even know how to explain it to people because I'm the same way as you. Like, I don't love running on a treadmill anymore, and I would prefer not to. I'd like to be outside if I can.
For sure.
But I did the exact same thing as you. I still remember my very first miles being like, I remember running a mile on the treadmill for the first time in years. And I was just like, ooh, that was fun. That wasn't hard. And I was like, there's something here to this. I don't think
Mhm.
I've ever really noticed because I was more of a stair stepper guy. I was always just climbing on the stair stepper because I could just start doing that thing. And it was truly like like truly stairs you're like climbing up. And I do it for 20 minutes and
Mhm.
I would go as hard as possible for 20 minutes. And I remember just being like, sweating like crazy. And I'm like, do it for 20 minutes. And that's great cardio. And I do that every day. And then I realized that maybe I should try a treadmill. And then that everything else was, history after that. So I love that that's what got you into, kind of running and really got you going. My next question I got to throw at you just based off of everything you said. So what was your first 50K and how did it go? I'm very curious I mean, obviously you kind of alluded to it, but what was it?
So yeah, it's a local race here. It's called, I think back then it was called the Seashore 50K. Now it's got a different name, Mel Williams Memorial or something. But it's in Virginia Beach. It's trail. It's like two big laps, and I think total it's got 1,000 feet of gain, which for us here is actually quite a bit, honestly. It's
Yeah.
really it's a like a nature park, and a lot of it's kind of like sand duney, like
Mhm.
that's kind of what it looks like, mostly dirt trail. But yeah, how did it go?
Yeah, how did you attack it, dude? Because here's the thing, I don't care. I don't care that it's 1,000 feet. You did it in 4 hours and 40 minutes. Like, that's like, I mean, right? Like if we're looking at that, so I just did the Ogden Marathon last weekend and I did it in 3 hours and 38 minutes. And so I'm like trying to do the math. I'm like, that's kind of that same pace. Maybe I was a tad faster, maybe, but I'm like,
Mhm.
that's about the same pace. And I'm like, holy cow, I don't know how you did that. Like, that's so fast. Like, that's impressive. That's why I'm just like, how did you attack this race? And again, maybe it was a while ago. Maybe you're like, Ryan, I can't remember
Yeah, I'm
exactly, but
trying to think.
how did you get after that, man?
Well, I'm extremely competitive.
Yeah.
Like I'm the person who, it doesn't matter if I could go out with the local run club or, tell myself I am going to run this 10K for fun. And the second I get on that starting line, it's like, nope, I'm gonna win or die trying. It's funny I say that
Hmm.
I've never actually won anything, but no, that's just me. It just starts clicking. And if I remember right, that was a hotter year. It's in December, so it's always the second weekend in December. And now I actually use that race as kind of like my fitness check. It's at the end of the year. I've done it 5 times now, and it always gives me like a good like where am I? How did the
Hmm.
year pan out? But no, I think that year, honestly, I had no idea. Like again, I had never run an official half marathon, never run a marathon, so I went straight to 50K, and I think I just sort of started running and
And
just
just
was like, let
went.
me just see how far I can make it. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think it was like, I don't know, I could probably look it up, but it was maybe in the 430s, 440s. And and then then 2 months later, this is where I like started wondering like what my potential was, because
Hmm.
a couple months later at the same park, but totally different course, they did it was a 50K, but it was 10 5Ks every hour on the hour.
Hmm.
And I ended up doing that one. My cumulative time was like 3:40. I think I finished seventh overall. And that's when I started being like, that's a whole different format. And it's
Yeah,
totally different on
totally.
your body. You
Yeah.
know, you go out, you run for 22, 25 minutes, and then you just sit, and then you get all stiff, and then you gotta go do it again and again and
Mhm.
again all day. But yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, I don't remember. I do know I've run this race. It is trail. There's been years it's been muddy and rainy, but I always wear Cliftons.
Mhm.
It's kind of my little like, I don't know why. My first race I wore Cliftons, like the Clifton 3 back then,
Mhm.
and then I've kept it up. It's just kind of I'm gonna wear Cliftons and I'm gonna go run this race as hard as I can. End of the year, see where I'm at. But no, I mean, I've had some definitely up and downs in that race. In the weather here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, in December, it can either be 75 or 25. Every year is different. It's
Yeah.
usually rainy that time of year. So
Hmm.
fast forward though, well, I mean, we can get into this a little bit later, but I've done like 440. I did I think 440, not in this order, but 440, 430. Then I had like I think a 413 year,
Wow.
and then I had another like 450 year. I just bonked hard. And then last year I finally this was my goal of like the entire year was to go sub 4. So I did it in 3:59:50.
Heck yeah,
Um
dude.
so I yeah,
Congrats, man.
there's a whole story there we can get into later. So that's like that's my race that I try to do every year.
Mm.
Um, but I can't really tell you how that first one went. It just, you know how it is. You get into a rhythm,
Mhm.
and I was just head down running on trail. I run on the road every single day. Like I would consider myself a road runner. I'm just obsessed with trails and ultras,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Mhm.
But I noticed one thing I noticed was how focused I was just down at the ground because I'm not used to roots and stuff. So I do remember that distracted me,
Mhm.
just always looking down and for trees and stuff like that. So I remember kind of getting lost in my head and just focused on the trail. And next thing you're 20 miles in, and you know, then you're 30 miles in, then you're done. I do remember thinking it wasn't. And I say this, and this I don't know if this is going to come off bad, but it wasn't as hard as I expected. So that the first one was, and ironically, like the second and third were brutal, and
Yeah.
I never wanted to run again. But I do remember thinking first one, I was like, I could do this, you know?
Yeah. That's
Um,
super that's super cool.
yeah,
Dude, let's go there. I do wanna eventually get to your road marathon here in a second because I know all
oh,
of our road running friends are gonna wanna hear that
hated
story,
it.
but before we do, tell us how you did 3:59:50, dude. Like, how in the world did you do a 50K, on trails with 1,000 feet? Like, what was your training look what did your training look like for that? Yeah, what did you do, dude?
Well, my I guess I'll start with my training, and this has been something that's been consistent since 2019 when I started. I run twice a day, 6 days a week. That's and my thing is I don't really do a lot of, actually I don't really do any more or less. Like I don't switch up my training. Like I know I should, but I don't do like threshold days or, tempo runs, or it's pretty much broken up. Mornings I run about 6 or 7 miles in the morning before work. And then usually either at lunchtime if I have time, or when I get home from work, I'll hop on a treadmill and I'll do about 3 to 4 more miles. Now
Mhm,
usually the treadmill run, the second run of the day is a little faster. Like I think right now my average pace in my morning run is like in the mid sevens, and then I try to run the second run around 7 minute miles. So I pick it up a little bit, but it's nothing. I don't do like the other thing that Jacob was astonished about when I told him this is I do not do long runs, and
mhm,
I probably should, and I would probably get better. I just honestly, this sounds crazy to say this, but I'm lazy
mhm,
and I don't really want to go out for 20 miles, 25 miles on a Saturday or,
mhm,
whatever. But I think just being that consistent for that many years, it's just, I think my base and
mhm.
my body's pretty fine tuned in that. Um, yeah. And last year, something clicked over the summer where my morning runs were usually back then they were more in like the eights, 8:10, 8:20, comfortable. But I don't even know what happened, but I just one day was like, I'm gonna run hard today and see how it feels. And I picked it up to like the mid sevens, and I was like, that wasn't that much harder.
Mm,
So I just kept that as the baseline. And
mhm,
then I pushed the second run a little harder too. And I think I just over a few months, got really fit doing that. There was a race in between where I sort of picked up my training and then that 50K and I did the Grindstone 100K.
Hmm.
And that was amazing. That was actually, I think I said in my little intro thing that I typed out to you last year was my most successful year. Grindstone's a UTMB race, and I went out there and I got 25th overall,
Hmm.
which I thought was pretty good. I think really
Heck
only
yeah.
the elites beat me on that one. And I had never been there before, never done the race before. It was 65 miles with about 12,000 feet of gain, and it was
Mm.
hot. It's in September in Virginia, and I think my time was 14 hours,
Wow.
and I ran most of it, which I
Hmm.
was because Wasatch. I'll be totally honest, I walked like 85% of the race.
We all do.
Yeah, we all
We
do.
all do.
But
Yeah.
but that was my only real mountain ultra experience. So I
Hmm.
was like, maybe it's just all walking. Like I've had this whole thing in my head, but Grindstone was different. I went out there with a mission and I was just having a great day and just killed it. So I
Mm.
kind of took that motivation and that, you know, boost into the December race. And so there was a lot of reasons for me to finish this race fast. Number one was so my job, I work for the Department of Transportation in Virginia,
Hmm.
and I'm in charge of all of the interstate maintenance. And one of my jobs, my primary jobs, is snow removal.
Hmm.
Well, it snowed that morning.
Hmm.
So all morning, I told all my bosses and supervisors, like, look, I got this race. I can't really work, but I'll be plugged in, in the morning, but I'm going to need like 5 hours to just I'll have my phone. If there's an emergency, call me. So anyway, so I'm thinking about work. I'm stressed, and I'm like, oh, I just need to get this thing over with. And so that was weighing on me. Also, it was a weird day. I remember I woke up. It was 65 degrees outside at 5 a.m. By the time I got to the starting line at 7, it was like 38. So the
Holy
temperature
cow.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
cold front, big time. And I was prepared for that. Like I knew that the storm was going to do that. So it was cold, which is good running weather. But about 5 miles into the race, it started sleeting. So we
Hmm.
had sleet coming down, pellets hitting you in the face. It was getting kind of muddy. And I knew my pace had to be 7:40 or better. Like that 7:40 was like exactly 4 hours. So I was like, I kept looking at my watch, like just stay there. But I started running. I probably ran the first 10 miles almost sub 7. So in my head, I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm banking a ton of time because I know it's going to suck at the end.
Hmm.
And I think the saving grace, honestly, was the running store that I help. I used to be an ambassador for, and they've kind of adopted me a little bit. They run the second aid station, which is there's only two, but you pass them so many times. And they knew that I had a goal. So when I got to them the first time, this made me feel this made me feel like I was an elite, and I loved
Yeah.
it. It's great. But I get up to the aid station. They see me coming. I think I'm in. I might be like fourth or fifth at that point, and they come running up to me like, "What do you need? What do you need?" And I just remember in my pack I had two big flasks, but it was so cold that I wasn't drinking, which was stupid, but I just, you're in the
Yeah.
zone. I was like, I need to get this off me. So I just ripped off my pack, handed it to this lady, Andrea, and I was like, I need a couple miles with a light, don't want to feel restricted. So I gave her my pack. I went and did about a 3.5 mile section, came back. She strapped it back on me. But we did all this while like we were moving. So
Yeah.
like if
Heck
you've
yeah.
watched like Western States footage, nowadays it's like those crews have that stuff dialed in. So I'm
Hmm.
like still moving. They're, strapping me up and then I keep going. I kept looking at my watch, like, 7:05, 7:10, like this is great. I might be able to walk this thing in, if I keep banking up. I finished the first lap. I'm still I was under 2 hours. So I'm like, okay, this is going well. And then, it's starting to sleet worse. And then it's starting to switch over to like that grapply, snow mixing. And it's just getting cold and it's, 30, 40-mile-an-hour winds. And so I go back out, get to that same aid station. And by this time I'm soaking wet from just the rainy, mixy, slushy stuff. And the same thing, I give them my pack and I'm just like, and I was like, there's a bag of caffeine and Advil somewhere. I was like, can you get it? So when I come back, and I remember when I went back out, when I came in, I was so cold, my hands, even with gloves on, Like I couldn't squeeze my fingers. They were like stuck like this. And I get
Ugh.
to the aid station. They're pouring. I had like 8 pills in my hand. I had caffeine, Advil, and a bunch of electrolyte pills. And I just raw dogged it, just clunk,
Yeah.
and just swallowed it because just
Yeah.
I
You're
was
like, I can't even do anything.
yeah. And they put my pack on and I couldn't buckle it. And
Yep.
I just remember being like, does anyone have hand warmers? And so I'm standing there like this, hands out, frozen, stiff, and I had like 4 women around me trying to stuff hand warmers in my wet gloves. It wasn't going in. And finally, like we got it, and they were just like, I remember asking them, I was like, what, like, how much further is it from here? And they were like, it's almost exactly a 10K.
Mhm.
And I looked at my watch, and it was like 3:10, 3:15, and I'm like, oof, like that's
Gotta
still
push.
a good, yeah. And I'll never forget this. I remember I asked them, I was like, do you guys think I can do this? And I remember this girl, Megan, I heard her, she was standing in the back. She goes, I've seen your Strava, you got this. And I don't know why I remembered that one quote, but I did. And I just went back
Yeah.
out, and I remember there's this one straightaway in the race where you get like these 3 hills that they're not big, but they just
Mhm.
go like this, and it's like Heartbreak Hill at Boston.
Yep.
It's gonna crush you. It's 28 miles into the race, and I remember I got on top of the third one, and I stopped, and I was like, it's over, and
Mhm.
I was so mad, but I was like, no, dude, just don't make it respectable at this point. I was convinced in my head that the last aid station was 2 miles away. So when I come up to the last aid station, I had, I think, like 13 minutes left. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I can't do that at this point. That's sub sevens. Like, but then the
Yeah.
little sign at the aid station said 1 point to go. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. And I remember I came and I just had like this boost. So I didn't even stop at the aid station for anything. In fact, I remember I took my bottles out and squeezed them out real quick to
Mhm.
get rid of the weight because I knew I was going to have to send it from here.
Yeah.
And I remember coming up to the finish line. It was so windy that the wind was like carrying the sound of the music. And I remember I looked at my watch and it was 3:59 even, and I could hear the music, and I was just like, "Ugh, this is going to be a sprint."
Yeah.
I just, it's like, why not just empty the tank from here, whatever's left. And ended up coming around the corner to where you've got, you know, 15 yards, meters left. And I just still see the 3. And then that was the first thing I saw. And then I saw the 59, and I'm like, oh, like it's not in the bag yet. And then I saw
Yeah.
it was still so like point 0.4 or something.
Mhm.
And yeah, I crossed the finish line with the clock said 8 seconds to spare, but then when I got my chip results, I had 10. But yeah, I mean, it was this
Right
close,
there.
and I give all of it to the girls at the aid station for doing those quick, almost like Western States elite
Oh,
level
yeah.
transitions and stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was cool. That's what made me like start thinking like, hey, I'm not
Mhm.
bad at this. I don't want to say I'm good at this because
Yeah.
nowadays these elites are unbelievable.
Insane.
But I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not horrible at this. So yeah, last year grindstone, and then that race finally hitting the sub 4. The funny thing was, not funny, this is actually not funny at all. Of course, this was the race that sub 4 still got me like 8th place. I was so mad. Most years that would have been like third or fourth. Not this year because it was cold. It was good. I mean, it was horrible running weather, but it was actually good running weather, temperature
Yeah.
wise. So a lot of people went fast.
That's awesome.
That's kind of a little funny, like, really.
Yeah.
I had like the best race of my life, and everyone else just happened to too. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, no, I have a very similar story to that as well. There was this was like 3 or 4 years ago, but I think he was my third guest on the podcast. Me and Nate Allred,
mm,
we were running. It was just a local 10K, right? It's not that big of a race, but we were both just feeling it that day, and we were going, and we were just like, "This is our day. Let's go." And the whole time we led, me and him led, and we were just like pacing
mm,
each other. And we were just like, yep, let's just keep going. Anyways, we get all the way to the 10K, right? It's just a 10K, so 6 miles, whatever. And we cross the finish line, and I know the race director. And we get through, and he's like, hey, congratulations on finishing fourth and fifth place. And I was like, what? And he's like, you guys finished fourth and fifth. And I was like, no, we were first and second. We were tied for first. And we actually did like the arm locking thing, me and Nate, so we'd be tied for first. We're like, let's both just finish first. Let's not one of us try to beat the other, because we were just like, this is so cool. Anyways, and we found out that 3 people had cut the course. And
oh,
And it wasn't like they intentionally did it. There
Mhm.
was a little bit of miscommunication on the course and directions people should go, and so the researcher felt really bad. He's like, "Well, I kinda already gave away, first, second, and third place," and we were like, "Don't worry about it, man." He's like, "But you guys really are the winners." He's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know that," and I was like 'cause I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "DJ, we ran that thing exactly like the way it's supposed to be." But it was one of those things where I was like, "Man, I went so hard," and at the end of the day, I only finished 4th place. I was so angry, dude. Oh, I was, like,
So
furious about that.
yeah, it's funny you said that. It just reminded. I can't believe I forgot about this. That same 50K in 2020 during
Mhm,
COVID. Long story short, the race got canceled. Then it was back on. Then it was canceled. And then like 3 days before, they were like, "Hey, we got the permit. We're good to go." So they were like, "But we got to do things differently." And
mhm,
like number one, you had to wear a mask, which don't even get me started. But we had to wear a mask running in the open.
yeah,
And but they were putting everybody out in waves. So
mhm,
they sent 25 runners out every 15 minutes, I think. And, they didn't extend the time. You still had an 8-hour window. So they asked, they were like, preferably if we let the slower runners go in the first couple corrals because they need the time. And they called everyone up to the starting line and they were like, first wave, if you guys want to go, we're going to start in 2 minutes. And only like 10 people went up there out of 25. And, minutes were going by and they were like, okay, if anyone else wants to come up and go in this wave, you can. So I was there with a friend of mine. I was like, you want to just go and get this over with? And so we went out there. Well, so I actually led the entire race.
mhm,
I didn't finish first. I was like 15th that year, but
sure,
it was a weird feeling. Like I knew in my head, I'm not going to win this thing, but
mhm,
it was a weird sensation being in the lead
yep,
the whole race. I had never in my life been pushed. I'm always chasing.
yep, me too.
So that was weird. And I do, it was a really cool experience to always be in first. Of course, then chip time comes in. You're like, oh man, I was like 15. But
Yep,
that was a
yep.
cool experience,
Yeah,
even though I didn't win.
I've only had it one other time as well where I won a fifth. It was another small local half marathon and same thing, like, I led the whole way, and it is a weird sensation. I'm like, "I don't know how you guys who are, like, winning all these races, how you do it," because I'm, like, turning into a space cadet. I'm like, keep looking behind me. I'm like, "Dude,
Yeah,
where's" and
the
someone like,
pressure. I
"Where's"
didn't like the
Yeah.
pressure.
I didn't either. I didn't either. I'm like, it's cool for you guys who are winning all these races and all that, but I'm just like, man, the whole time all I did was just keep looking back and like afraid I'm gonna get passed or someone's gonna sneak up on me. You've always seen like
Hmm.
the tortoise and the hare type analogies, and I'm like, don't give up. Like until you cross that finish line, be giving it all your all. And dude, I was nervous the whole time. So that's funny you say that. But well, cool, dude. I've been dying to talk to you about Wasatch just
Me too. I
because
was just gonna say I have a lot. I have some questions for you on Wasatch actually.
yeah, let's do it. But, take me through Wasatch in 2024 for you. What did that look like? Obviously, you've told us, and I know, like, as I've listened, and I encourage our listeners to go back and listen to Matt's episode with Jacob Bateman on Trail to 100, a great podcast out there as well. But he talks a lot about this. I've listened to your episode. But obviously, you've given us kind of an idea what your training is like. Definitely different, but it works for you, and that's cool. If it works for you, dude, I think that's amazing. Yeah, how did Wasatch go for you, man? Because I was with you that year.
Hmm.
As I've said before, it was hot. That's the year I had kidney stones. So not only was it hot, I was dealing with kidney stones. I was a complete mess. But yeah, how did it go for you?
Okay, so I had a wake up call. It was, what would it be? 3, 4 weeks before the race. I think it was the third week in August. I flew out there. When they lived out there, my wife's a teacher, so she has to go back to school way before the kids go back. So, and obviously I work. So the last couple weeks of summer, I used to fly my son out there and let him stay with my parents for a couple weeks, and which is like heaven for a kid that age out in the
Mhm,
mountains. And so I took him out there and I was like, I got to do some sort of training run because I don't know what I'm getting myself into. So I went to Brighton and I went up like the Millie side of the mountain. I went up and did like the Millie peak. And then there's like 5 or 6 peaks that go
mhm,
along Brighton, that ridge. I just went like up and down all of them over to Great Western and then down the ski slope to the lodge. But that was a 9 mile run. It took me over 4 hours. And I remember when I got back to my car, I'm just like sitting there like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. that was like I was toast. And at the 10th of the race, I used more than a tenth of the time. Granted, as I learned from doing the race, that's probably the hardest section. But yeah, there was 3 weeks there before the race that I'm just like, this is not gonna work.
Dude, before you go on any further, I just want all of our listeners, because we have quite a few of them who I know are doing Wasatch for the first time this year. Please learn from what Matt just said there. That is very, very important. It is not just because some of us make it look like it's possible doesn't make it easy. It is extremely hard race. Like he just said, he did 9 miles. It took him 4 hours. He comes from the East Coast and he's like, what have I signed up for? Like, this is why you beat the tar out of yourself in the summer. This is why you're doing mountain after mountain and you're just like, I'm not even fast at this. That's not the point. The point is that you can endure and get through it. So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I just had to like absolutely hit on that because I have so many people who are like, oh, I'm going to be fine for Wasatch. And inevitably, every year I've done it, all 3 years, I've known multiple people who've done it and they have DNF because they didn't take it serious.
For sure. Yeah. So I remember, yeah, I came back home and just was like, oh. So anyway, I go out there for the race. I only came out a day ahead of time just because I was trying to cut down on using leave for work and stuff. I got out there. There's a restaurant in Emigration Canyon that has um it's like a name, like Ruth's or I don't know, but they have the best biscuits ever. And then
Mm-hmm.
we went there for breakfast and I chowed down hard. I specifically remember that. But yeah, so I just chilled for a day. And then I remember getting to the race and I remember being in the back of my parents' car and I'm just that's when it hit me like almost like imposter syndrome or something. I'm like, I don't belong here. I remember getting to Wilderness Park, I think it's called.
East Wilderness, yeah.
Yeah, and we got there early, and I remember looking around and just thinking like, I don't look like these. Like I just had this like horrible feeling like I don't look like these people. I don't feel like these people. They all look like, super athletes and they're gonna crush this and they have better gear than I do. And I'm just like, I'm in my head big time. Um, the race starts. I had studied and watched YouTube videos and read stuff, listened to podcasts, so I knew what the first climb was like, at least in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I told myself, I was like, I'm just gonna walk it. I know it's gonna be a Congo
Smart.
line. I know it's a lot longer. People say like, if you get to the top and you've used 3 hours, that's okay.
Yep.
If you
100%.
crush yourself up bare, forget it. And I did eat it really hard in front of like 50 people. And I,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, gosh, man, don't make yourself look any more like you don't fit in here. But anyway, I just slowly grinded my way up there. And then, you get to the top and it flattens out and it's that nice kind of dirt road. I did have this moment. I don't know. I still to this day don't know what happened, but I was just running down. It was right when you passed that little dome up at the top where the water station. I went around, you kind of go on the Salt Lake City side of the mountain for a little bit, and I stepped on a rock and however I landed, it shot. I heard a pop and it shot this pain all the way from my
Mm-hmm.
Achilles to my butt. And it was so bad that I don't know how I did this, but the next step, I ended up not landing on that foot and I like hopped on the other foot for a minute and I wouldn't put that foot on the ground
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, what was that? And I like put my foot down and I'm like, okay, nothing hurts. But I like heard a pop. Like I was like, well, cool. I'm 7 miles into the race and my day's over. I thought like
Mm-hmm.
my Achilles, you know, tore or something. And I just kind of started walking. And I was like, wow, that's weird. There's no pain. And so, anyway, yeah, I just kept going. And for anyone who hasn't run the race, this is my take on it. Bear is bear. You just got to get through it. Then
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go through a bunch of roads. It's fairly easy. And then I really enjoyed when you come kind of off those roads and you start go back into the mountains a little bit into some canopy. I thought that was a cool part of the course up to the first, sessions is cool. And
Mm-hmm.
then what's the first crew station called?
Big Mountain.
Big Mountain. That whole section is cool. I like that. And then I do remember though, I had a gear problem. I wore and I kept them just because I hate them so much. They're part of the story. But I was wearing the Speed Goat sixes, which I don't know what they did in those shoes, but they feel like plywood on your feet. And I remember I came into, there's actually a video of me. I came into that aid station. You know, you come down that zigzag
Mhm.
and then it's got all those towers, cell towers or whatever. I ran, my mom's sitting there in the middle of that dirt road where you come down and she's like trying to give me a hug and I run through her and I just remember saying, get these something, something, something shoes off my feet. And I like ran to my chair and I sat down and there's pictures of me just shredding these shoes off my feet.
Mhm.
And so I did a shoe change there and I went to the Ultra Olympus,
Mhm.
got them over there too. And I'd never really run in ultras before, so I was like,
Gonna be
this
fun.
could go one
Yeah.
of two ways. And then I do remember I loved from Big Mountain to the
Alexander's the next
A.
aid station.
Yeah, that was cool. And then you're up on those exposed ridges.
Mhm.
My advice to anybody who's doing it is, so I'm in a t-shirt, backwards hat, because I assumed coming from where I live, the heat, I'd be fine with the heat. And I
Mhm.
really was. But the sun was so unbearable. I was not prepared for the sun. And that sounds stupid, but I was not ready for it. I was fried by the time I got to Lamb's Canyon. And that was only day one, you know, because I knew I
Mhm.
was going to the next day. But I remember, you know, you're up on those ridges and, you know, you can see Interstate 80 for a long time and it feels like, you know, and then there's parts where you're like, Lambs is right there, but I
Yep, you
got to
can
go
see it
like
the whole
eight
time.
miles. Yeah. That part of the race was okay. I was just getting tore up by the afternoon. And then there's that section where after that last aid station before Lambs, you got to go like just up that straight, slightly uphill trail before you make the turn to come back into Lambs. I remember
Mhm.
that demoralized me just because it was a lot longer than I expected. But yeah, so anyway, I get to Lamb's Canyon right at the sun was just about setting, and I told my parents I was done. I was like, my lips were blistering. I could feel the sunburn on my arms, and I just sat down in the chair and was like, "There's no way." And my mom's like, you know, okay. On one hand, we're proud of you. You know, the mom, we're proud of
Mhm.
you. We love you. If you want to, you know, quit, we're still happy or whatever. But on the other hand, I think one of them said, like, you know, it's only been 12 hours. You've got 24 hours to do the second half. Like, you've got the time and I was just so beat up. Yeah, I've pretty much convinced myself that no, I'm just gonna call it a day. I took about 45 minutes there. I think they brought me like Jimmy John's. I had like an actual meal.
Mhm.
Um, and I chugged two flat 20-ounce Mountain Dews.
Mhm.
And that man, that hit the spot so good. But yeah, and obviously I decided not to quit. And I don't know if it was a mental thing or if it was just the break with some real food and stuff, but climbing up Lamb's Canyon when you cross the interstate and go up that
Mhm.
asphalt road for a while, we got in the shade. You know, the sun's behind the mountains at that point, and I just remember like it just felt so much better. Everything felt better. And then
Yep,
that's a nasty climb
it is.
up but I was with a group of like 8 people. Didn't know
Nice.
any of them, but I was
Yeah.
following them, and something just clicked, and I'm back to running. I'm running up this stupid mountain. We had some like fun up there. Like there was a guy. You know, you're in a canyon, really deep canyon there, and you're kind of running up the side. And I remember we were probably a mile up the mountain, and way down at the bottom, we just hear this guy, and this is echoing all through this mountain. He's just throwing up, and he's just
Oh gosh.
and
Yeah.
we're just listening to the heaves and you know we're kind of all laughing. They knew him somehow, so
Oh,
they're like,
okay.
That's Johnny, you know, listen to him." So they're laughing, so then I started laughing just because I kind of they adopted me for a few miles. But then the sun went down and that next stretch up through, I used to remember it, but the neon light,
Up to Upper Big Water, but Mill Creek
upper big
area.
one, I had so much fun on those trails. I was
They're
just second
perfect.
wind.
Yeah.
They're awesome. And that's such a fun aid station.
Yep.
You know, they have all the neon lights and it's really high energy and yeah, just then, you know, I'm kind of back on cloud nine. I'm loving it. It's cool. And then, you know, you sort of keep going. There's a nasty climb. I don't remember where it is at this point, but right outside of one of the aid stations, you like
It's a desolation lake. You have to,
desolation.
yeah, you have to climb up like a ridiculous mountain right there.
It's
Yeah.
like it's like that.
Yep.
I remember I had my poles like almost straight out, like, and they were touching the trail. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. But I kind of touched on Brighton already. I'm pretty familiar with Guardsmen's and Brighton, so I knew that area. Came into Brighton and super emotional. Now, the one thing that I really screwed up on was I left Brighton. I changed socks. I kind of did a whole kit change, and I got like maybe a quarter mile up that trail, and I thought there was a rock in my shoe. Turned out it was a blister, but
Mm,
I thought it was a rock, and I was close enough that I should have turned around and went and had someone help me dress my foot, but I was like, I'm not walking down and then coming back up this again. So I pushed on, and that
yep.
really screwed up my race. I had a blister for the rest of the time, but when you when you peak Catherine's,
Hmm.
that's when the race turns into like that's to me that's when it started. That sounds crazy, but like mile
Oh yeah.
73 is
Hmm.
when I think the the Wasatch like earns its reputation because everything from there on sucks. From the top of Catherine's Pass to basically where you get to the lake at
Decker Canyon.
95 Decker. Everything sucks. It's a lot of downhill. You're in. I just remember the trail were like V
The
ditches.
plunge. Yep. At the
The
plunge,
plunge,
man.
you couldn't like go like this because it was too wide, but then the bottom was all rocks, and you were like, there were so many times I just stood there for a minute, like, what is this? Like, this isn't a trail. This is like, I don't know. I got so frustrated. But man, when the endless in and outs of the reservoir finally end and you hit that asphalt path, oh dude, that's the best feeling ever. But that's still a mile, almost a mile.
Yep. It's
And
like
it was
1.2 or something. Yeah. It's
and
right
it
there.
was
Yeah.
baking that day. I mean, you remember. But yeah, I mean, Wasatch it was the most humbling thing I've ever done. The funniest story of the race was I'm at the reservoir. I'm 2 miles from the finish. I'm texting my mom. I'm like, if you could come pick me up, I would quit right now. Like that's how demoralized I was. 2 miles to go, and I'm like, I would 100% DNF if I had the chance.
Yep.
But my mom, and I don't even know if this is against the rules or not. My mom was like, "Do you want me to walk towards you?" Because I was out of everything. I had
Yeah.
no food, and no water at that point.
Ugh.
Nothing. I was by myself, and it was hot. And that's
Hmm.
day two. So and my mom was like, I'll walk towards you up the trail. And I was like, yep, do it. I don't care if that disqualifies me at this point, like, getting aid, whatever. So she starts walking up to me, and we meet up like right where the like road ends before those trees. And she had the audacity to be like, oh, that was really hard. I just look at her and I was like, if you were my mom, I'd punch you square in your face right now. I was like, I don't want to hear anything being hard. I don't want to hear you saying you're hot.
Yeah.
Like, give me the Gatorade, turn
Yeah.
around.
Let's
But I
go.
just thought
Yeah.
it was hilarious that she was complaining about walking a mile after where we were on the race.
Mm,
But no, I mean, I think the coolest thing about Wasatch is how different every section is.
yep.
There's full blown single track. There's up and down cool mountain areas that you're in alpine forest for part of it. You're on Jeep roads. So that was cool. It's like it wasn't just like kind of the same thing. That
Yep.
would be my gripe about Grindstone that I did last year was you were either on access gravel roads or Appalachian mountains kind of all feel and look the same.
Hmm.
It's very dense, the forests were it just kind of like, oh, just sort of feels like the same trail over and over and over again, or you're on a road. So it wasn't as varied as Wasatch. I did like that aspect of it. I'm very thankful for the West Coast style because your mountains are bigger. So you guys switch back up everything.
Hmm.
The East Coast just goes straight up.
Straight up and down.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we're not adding miles here. We're just point A to point B.
Yeah, we're gonna go straight up.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't have to tell you about the race. You've done it 3 times. I mean, it's just what's that quote? There's a quote. Someone said it about like, what's the difference between marathons and ultra marathons? Marathons, you go to hell and you stay there till you're done. An ultra, you go to hell and you come back, and then you go to hell and you come back again, and you keep like that's what an ultra feels like. You want to die every other hour. You've got ups, and then that up's gonna end, and then that down is gonna end, and you might bounce back, but then that's gonna end, and yeah, I was very, very humbled, but man, when you cross that finish line, like, but part of me was I had an odd emotional response to that. 'Cause I had done like my crying part of
Hmm.
the feeling at like mile 80 for some reason. Like I knew, it's 20 miles left. I think I don't know, I had 8 hours maybe still. So I was like, oh, this is in the bag. I just like at this just don't get hurt to the point where you can't walk. So I started getting kind of emotional probably too early. But I do remember coming across that finish line, not feeling even like happy. I was just like, thank goodness that's over, you
You
know?
know, it's so funny you say that because I had the exact same experience. Every Wasatch, every Bear 100, Buffalo 100, all my hundreds, man. Like the emotions are spent. Like I get across the finish line, I'm like, I just want to be done. Like I don't
Mhm.
want to. I'm tired of feeling. I'm tired of being tired. I just want to be done. Right? Like I'm so over it. So it's really funny to hear. It's not funny. It's just, I totally get what you're saying. It's funny to hear so many of your things about Wasatch because we see it so similar. Again, I've kind of already alluded to it, but in 24 it was just so hot when we both did Wasatch, and that heat. I don't know if you knew, but like when I was coming through to the finish line, my friend was like, "Do you want to know how hot it is here?" And I'm like, "I don't really want to." And he's like, "But do you want me to tell you?" And I was like, "Sure." He said it was 87 degrees as we were coming through, and you got the sun. The thing is like here in Utah, and I don't know if it's like this in every other state, whatever, but like for me, I can deal with the heat. I'm like you. I don't care if it's hot. That doesn't bug me. I can once I'm acclimated to it, I'm good. Like whatever, it doesn't hurt me. What kills me is the direct sun. And this is
Mhm.
why I'm always wearing my hoods and my hats and I have my whole body covered up is I'm trying my best to make sure that I am just like I'm not getting sunburned because you're hearing you say you're getting cooked. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I remember watching you, or no, that sounds weird. I remember seeing like your pictures post race, and I remember being like, why is he in a hoodie?
Hmm.
Like, he should not be in a hoodie. And then now it makes total sense.
Oh yeah. The sun kills me. I mean, that's exactly. I'm like, if I can avoid getting sunburnt and getting cooked, then I'm in the race. I'm good. But if I get cooked, it's game over for me pretty quickly.
They nailed the tagline, 100 miles of heaven and hell. Uh,
Easily. Yeah. Yeah,
and
you're 100%.
I always wondered too, like, and it makes sense now. I've thought about this, but it would be cool to run the race the other way. But I can't imagine going down Bear
Uh-uh.
at mile 92. I think
Mm-mm.
people would die. Like, I
Yeah.
legitimately think they would. But yeah, I mean, kind of switching gears on like the emotional part of the race and just running in general. Last year, I was like just totally focused on I have to do Western States or
Hmm.
UTMB. And one thing that's really changed about, and I don't know if it's doing some of these races now to where, like, even last year with Grindstone, I had a good finish, especially for someone who just does this for fun, on the side. Some of these races really made me realize, like, that's not what it's about. It'd be awesome to run Western States, like, you know, but the sport has changed so much now
Hmm.
that it's become very elite to where like I actually think races like Wasatch or I know you do Bear, which is crazy. You do these back to back. I can't even fathom that. But like, you know, the races that mean something to you are where it's at. Like
Yeah.
Wasatch, and that's the whole reason I did it. It was in my parents' backyard. It goes through Brighton, like it meant something. That race meant something to me. And I think that's probably what kept me moving all those times I wanted to quit.
Dude, I love that. And this is kind of a good segue. I wanted because as you know, like my podcast is about why, right? Why do you do
Yeah.
this all to yourself? And I think this is a good segue to that to answer that question because yeah, why do you do this, man? Like why do you do this to yourself? Why do you keep doing 2 a days? Why do you like run 7 minute paces and 7.5 minute paces? And why do you do this to yourself, dude? Because this isn't easy and it beats you up. And like you're saying, like you're talking about doing Wasatch and dude, I echo exactly what you said. Like at times it's not fun. It sucks. Like and like you said, you're just constantly, oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is awful. You just play this game, you're doing this and the whole time I'm just fighting that emotion to be like, I want to quit. I just want to
hmm
quit. I don't want to do this any longer. But yeah, why do you do this to yourself, dude? Why do you do all this running? What's your why behind it all?
Oh man, I mean, I've definitely thought about this a million times, but it's hard to articulate, I think.
Mhm.
I mean, part of it is I do enjoy it. Part of it
Mhm.
is I like being almost 40 years old and being able to hang. If that's like being prideful or whatever, then maybe there's a little bit of that. But no, I think I'm always running. Maybe running from is the wrong way to put it, but I'm always trying to prove to my old self that like, you can do these things or like I don't know, it's really hard to articulate, but like Because I really don't post much. Like I obviously
Mhm.
put everything on Strava just because it logs it for me, but I'm not a big social media post. I don't post a lot about my run, so I don't do it for, likes and all that stuff. But I
Yeah.
think there's a part of it's for me against me, and I think there's this weird, deep-rooted, like I'm trying to not prove directly to their faces, but
Mhm.
like I always see like those kids when I was in middle school and high school. I mean, let's be honest, my name is Matt and it rhymes with fat, which
Mhm.
sucked being a kid. But like, so I think I'm always like, I hate to use this metaphor, but like kind of sticking a finger up to them,
Yeah.
like, look at me now type of thing. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's healthy or not, but no, I mean, I just think it's, and I love the, like, what's the limit?
Yeah.
Or like how, like, could I finally finish Seashore going under 4 hours?
Mhm.
I proved that I could. So I love the challenge. I love the exploration of the unknown. And that sounds very dramatic, but like my own personal unknowns, like I
Mhm.
said, is that time and that race possible? I
Mhm.
figured out it is. And I'm always searching for like what's next and what can I prove to myself, prove to other people. But
Dude, I love
yeah,
it, man. I think that's beautiful and I think it's amazing. I love that you're doing that. Like, let's be honest, I think we're all at some point or another trying to prove to somebody that said you couldn't do it or you couldn't be who you are. Like I have at multiple times felt that exact same way. So I love that you say that because anybody that says that they haven't had that feeling's crazy and
yeah,
they're in denial because I think we've all had that feeling at one time or another. Because I've had even family members are like, dude, you shouldn't do this. This is not for you. Like, why
oh
you're
yeah,
trying to run.
yeah,
And that's fine, like, they're doing it because they love me, and I
mhm,
appreciate that they say that, but then, just on top of that too, like, for me, it's I love to, like I sometimes tell myself, and I've said this before in my other podcast, like, my heart why is so hard to articulate, like you're saying, because it's so deep, it's so, like, there's lots of roots to it, it's a big tree, whatever you wanna call
mhm,
it, but one thing that you said that I actually 100% agree with, and this is for me as well, I I'm like, I always feel like I'm trying to prove to my younger self right now that you can do hard things and that you can do these crazy things. And even though I know time is linear, right? And I can't go back in time. I remember being a 20-year-old thinking, I can't do anything special. I'm never going to amount to anything in life. I'm never going to be anything. And I'm not saying that I am anything in my own head. Maybe I'm a legend in my own mind, as the brothers Osborne say. But I I am like and to myself, I'm like, "No, you're constantly proving you are good enough, that you can do these things," and I wanna be the best version of myself. I think that's what's so beautiful about it is I'm always like, who would have ever thought you could do these hundreds? Who would have ever thought you could run a marathon? Who could, all this stuff, and I don't know, I think it's cool. I love that you say that because I think it's so true, and I love being able to prove to myself, like, you are good enough, and, like, no matter what anyone's ever said about you, no matter what people have thought about you, like, you are good enough, and so are other people, and that's what's cool. I love hearing you say that because 'cause I'm like, I look at you and like, just being 100% transparent, I'm like, "Dude, you're a badass runner in my opinion." Like, I don't know what half of these things that you've talked about and like what your childhood was like, and I didn't know you were 285, and I didn't know that. I freaking just thought you were an amazing runner always, and I'm like, "He's amazing." And I see other people like this, and then they have these authentic, real stories, and that's again why this whole podcast, why I'm doing it, is we're real people. We're human
yeah.
beings that are trying our best. Go ahead, yeah, go for it.
No, I was gonna say a couple things. One thing my dad always tells me is like, he's like, life is a chapter book. Fill your book up so that when you get, older towards the end, you can look back and think on, just all the different chapters and different things you've done. But also like, because I'm sure you get this too. Like people will say, "Why do you do this?"
Mhm.
And my response is, "Why not?"
Bingo.
Like why? And it is hard to wrap your head around. I'm not saying this is normal by any means, but like I don't know. I just look at these things and I'm like, why wouldn't I try?
Yep,
Because yeah, and I'm gonna knock on a lot of wood here. I haven't DNF'd yet, anything, but like, yeah, so what? You might fail for sure. We
yep,
all do. We're always gonna fail something. But what if, like I always think, what if I succeed? What if I
yep.
get into Western States, which has a crazy hard cutoff, and I make it? You know,
Mhm,
what if I get into UTMB, which is ridiculously hard?
mhm.
And what if I finish before the cutoff? Like
Yeah,
Wasatch was the same thing. I went into Wasatch really thinking I wasn't going to finish.
Hmm.
My goal was, let's see how far I can get. And
Hmm.
of course I got into it and, finished. But like, yeah, I don't know. I can't wrap my head around people whose first thought process is, well, why would you want to do that?
Or I
Because
can't, right? Yeah.
my instinct is, why wouldn't I?
Bingo.
And how fun would it be to try?
Yeah. I'm the same way as you, dude. Like 100%. I'm like, why not me? Like,
Like in my head, I'm like, I would never do Cocodona,
mhm.
but also I'm like, well, maybe 250 sounds gnarly, but why not?
Dude, you should do it. Maybe I'll have you come out and pace me when I do it one day.
Oh
But
man, yeah,
yeah, I am like I used to be the same way. Me and Jacob Bateman used to talk about all the time. He's like, "Do you think you'll ever do it?" I'm like, "Heck no." And I knew I shouldn't have watched any of it this year. I had multiple
oh
friends
man,
doing it this year, Angela
yeah.
Millette and Jill Wilkins. And sure enough, man, I'm like, dude, I'm doing it. I don't know when, but I am going to do it. You heard it here first. I think I've said on other episodes, I'm going to do it. I just don't know
Well,
what year
if
it'll
you
be.
do it before me, I'll pace you. I'll come
Heck
out.
yeah, dude. And likewise, if you do it, I'm in. I'd love to help you
Cool.
for sure. Well, cool, dude. This freaking episode's been amazing, dude. I've loved the direction it's gone. I've loved all the things we've chatted about. We're gonna go ahead and get to the point of wrapping this up. But I do
Yeah.
want to end it like I always do with everybody. I want to throw my lightning round questions at you. Is that
Okay.
something you'd be game for? These are
Yeah.
always fun. These are always fun. And obviously you've answered a lot of these questions already, but we're gonna do it anyways. First lightning round question. Favorite race distance?
100K.
Let's go, dude. I thought you were gonna say 50K, but that's awesome. 100K. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Next question. I already know the answer, but we're gonna ask it anyway. Road or trails?
Ooh, heart says trail, but if I'm being realistic with myself, I'm a road runner.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
I like you said, I think you love the trails, you love to be
Yes.
on them, but it's easier and it more fits your lifestyle
Yeah.
to be on the roads, and I get that 100%.
If I had to
So
pick though, I'd pick a trail race every single day before a road race.
heck yeah, dude. I hear you. I hear you. You know, like you said, I think you said it really good when you were talking about how these races need to mean something to us. And that's why I
Mhm.
do any of the races I do anymore. They mean something to me personally. And that's why I still do certain road races. Am I like, I don't know if I consider myself a road runner any longer. I like doing certain road races, but I would prefer to be on trails always if it was my
Yeah,
honest opinion. So
for
that's
sure.
cool. Morning or evening runs? Maybe
Morning,
it's morning. Okay, awesome. I was gonna say
4
you
4
run.
a.m., baby.
Let's go, dude. I love it. I'm impressed because I do see what time you're always up, and I'm like, holy crap. Because I used to be a lot better at it, but my kids are getting to that teenager stage, and dude, it's you wait, bro. It's coming.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when it hits. Because I'm like, I used to be able to do the 4:30, and now it's like I'm dragging, especially where I'm like, for us, school ends tomorrow for us here in
Okay.
Utah.
Yeah.
Well, for my county, my district, school district, and I'm
Yeah.
like, here we go, the summer again with them being up every night until 11 o'clock. I'm like, oh, here we go, 11, 12. I'll survive. But that's awesome. I'm a morning guy too, so I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, next one. Favorite post run or race meal?
I actually usually struggle to eat after a race, but when I do get my appetite back, I'm chicken wings.
Heck yeah.
After Wasatch, I went to Billy Blanco's in Park City. I got
Hmm.
a full order of wings, a buffalo chicken sandwich with tater tots, and a full appetizer of nachos.
Dude, look at you, man. That's
That's
awesome.
crushing.
That's crushing it. You know what? You earned it and more. So I
Oh
love
yeah,
that.
for
I
sure.
love it. Yeah, I've said this before. I struggle like you. I can't eat for like a day. All I can do is like a cold, like I really like my protein powder. So I'll do like the chewable ice with my protein powder and I'll just have that like two of those and it just tastes so good and it cools my body down. But man, that next day I'm a freaking ravaging wolf, dude. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
eat,
Cookie Monster,
yeah,
nonstop.
and it's like just keep the food coming. Like that's what I tell my wife. I'm like just bring it. Like it's not. I'm not gonna stop eating. So just keep bringing the food. So that's awesome. Okay, last one, and this could be a two-parter, and I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is already on this, but I might know both answers. But music, podcasts, or silence on your runs?
I'm gonna have to go podcast. If I'm
Oh
honest with
wow,
myself, I listen
that's
to
awesome.
yeah, I
Yeah.
listen to podcasts just about every morning. Okay, well here we go. Podcast in the morning, music in my second run because it's
Okay.
shorter.
Heck
So
yeah.
I can't like dive in and engage into a podcast because I know it's going to be over in like 20 minutes. So
Nice.
yeah, a little of both actually.
Nice. Okay. And obviously, I think we know probably part of these answers, but I'm still going to ask it anyways. What's on your playlist right now for music?
So my my Spotify top, like when they do the end of year rap thing or like give you your top song playlist, it hasn't changed for like a decade, but it's
Heck yeah.
mostly a combination of like Blink 182, Rise Against, A Day to Remember, Bring Me the Horizon, and I do like some deathcore. So like
Hmm.
some Lorna Shore
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah.
sprinkled in there. Yeah, anything with heavy distorted guitars and at least some screaming somewhere in the song.
I love it, dude. I love it. By the way, I never said this from the get-go, but I just have to say, Matt, a few weeks, maybe months ago, he went to MXPX. For those who don't know who MXPX, amazing. He's punk
Yes.
rock band. He sent me some clips of it, and it just like it has set me on a different course. It has brought me back all their albums, dude. I've been listening to everything and anything of them again. So it's just awesome, dude. I appreciate you sending that. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. So I've been all obsessed with them for a little while now. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. But well, dude, this has been awesome. Last two questions I'll throw at you, and
Hmm.
then we will truly wrap it up. What would you say to someone who may be struggling with their why right now with running, or maybe they're just struggling in general with whatever, like with running, with just whatever with life? What would you say to them?
Man. So I'm gonna steal a quote from Eliud Kipchoge,
Heck yeah.
and well, it's not really a quote. It's just one of his videos. He says like, embrace the pain, feel the
Yep.
pain.
Yep.
Oh, the other quote, discipline is freedom.
Nice.
I get up at 4 a.m. every single morning and I put my shoes on, and I would say 5 out of the 6 days a week that I run, I don't want to do it,
Yep.
but I do it. I'm consistent, very disciplined, and it allows me to go do some of the stuff I like to do, or I'm able to do, and
Dude,
embrace the pain because everything's gonna hurt at some point.
dude,
So
I
just
love
it's
that.
part of it. Feel it.
Yep, and let it be a part of you. That's the exact same thing I always say on every one of my hundreds and marathons, whatever. Like the moment you just take in the pain and just be like, "This is gonna hurt," like it's okay, just get through
Hmm.
it. You do amazing. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, my last question I always start to everyone: is there anything else about your why that you want to share? Maybe you thought about it after we had talked about your why or anything like that. Is there anything else that you're like, I wanted to include that?
But just the suffering reminds you that the rest of your day really can't get much worse. Yeah, I think that's a good one. And I actually do take a lot from that quote from Eliot,
Hmm.
discipline does equal freedom.
Yep.
And that sounds very dramatic, but if you think about it, if you're disciplined enough to train right, to eat right, and that's just in the running context, but in other parts of life, if you're disciplined enough to do the work, stick with it when it sucks, when it hurts, when you don't want to do it, when it's hard, when you
Yep.
don't know what you're doing, but you grind through it, would be surprised at all the things that you could end up doing.
Dude, perfectly said. And that's like you said, it's not just running related. That's relationship related. That is professionally related. That is spiritual journey that you're on related. That's everything. So, dude, I freaking love that. Thank you. And I'm glad that you like emphasize that because it is running, but it is so much deeper than that. So, dude,
For
super,
sure.
super cool. Well, awesome. Matt, dude, this has been amazing. I've loved our conversation. It's just felt like we were just chit chatting, having a good time, me and you.
Yeah,
This has
definitely.
been yeah, just been an absolute joy for me. If you're ever at Utah, let me know. We'll go catch some miles together or whatnot. But, if I find myself back in Virginia, I definitely would hit you up for sure.
Yeah, man.
Anyways, but well, cool, dude. If people want to follow you, are you okay if they followed you on Strava,
Oh
on
yeah, yeah.
Instagram, any of that stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. I'll throw that in the show notes so you can follow Matt. But, dude, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the episode. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you having me on here. This has been awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
All right, man.
Hey, runner. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Reimagine Running. I'm grateful you're here and a part of this great podcast. I just want to remind you, if you ever feel stuck, unsure, or just want someone in your corner, I do offer coaching for runners at any distance. Whether you're starting out with the 5K or you're chasing some crazy big goals and dreams like the marathon or the 100-miler, I'd love to help you. Please reach out and I'd be happy to set up a time to go over options and plans and goals with you. Well, until next time, take care of yourself, trust the process, stay disciplined, and keep chasing that why.